Well, thank you all for attending. My name is Omar Katan. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Sandstorm Digital. It's a small startup agency, 2 years old now, and we specialize in search engine optimization, but also content marketing, which I'll discuss today why content marketing is, why content marketing is really an important part of the future of SEO and why you should pay attention to it. So I've left my Twitter handle here. It's at Omar Katan. Please feel free to connect here, LinkedIn. It's good to be connected with people here in Dubai and generally speaking. Basically, I'm hoping that today, by the end of the session, you'll get a few insights and some learnings that I'll hopefully can pass on to you. And specifically, there's going to be 9 of them, but there's a bonus insight that's also worth keeping in mind. So what we'll be discussing today is a brief history of SEO. So we're not going to go into too much detail about it because the history is very long, but some kind of snapshots of where SEO was and where it's going, where it's heading. Some search engine ranking factors then and how they've evolved today, and what the future holds for SEO and what you need to do today to future-proof your business. So again, 9 very simple, concrete insights that hopefully you'll use when you leave today. But there is a very important kind of message that I want to pass on today, and it's a message that kind of I'm trying to pass on because I've experienced it. I've been doing SEO for 10 years now, well, over close to 12, and the one thing that I need to pass on to you is that SEOs need to really think like marketers and not consider the practice of SEO as just a technical matter. It's very, very important. It always has been this case. It's not new. And I'm lucky to have been working with some of the world's largest brands early on, before SEO was even known in the UK. So Dell and a few other major clients like IKEA. And we've always thought of SEO as content marketing, or the principles of SEO have always been kind of ingrained in content marketing. And with that comes a few understandings, like how, to have a clear understanding of who you're trying to attract to your website. When planning your keyword strategy, the keywords you're trying to target to attract people to your site through search engines like Google, you need to think about them as people and not just statistics. We talk about buyer personas, and each business, if any company is trying to attract people, there are people that are actually you're talking to, and you have to classify them into various persona types and actually start from there into actually researching and basically planning your strategy for who you're going to attract and how. And then once you've done that, then it's all about producing really useful content, and it's timely content and content that adds value to the funnel of how people eventually buy from you, whatever that product or service is. And most importantly, and this has always been the case, SEO is also about partly about connecting with people and ensuring that your content is communicated to the influencers in your niche, and that's really important, and we'll discuss today why this is important. So a brief history of SEO. So basically, the history we'll go through today it very clearly shows that SEO has been heading towards something we call artificial intelligence or machine learning, and it wasn't easy to go straight into that. When a long time ago, when the industry started or search engines started becoming important, but this is where it's heading, and it kind of started off with humans and a lot of hand editing, but as the technology improved, it really is moving towards smart machines, smart computers that can think for you and actually think about what you're trying to achieve from the search that you're doing. So that's really important to know. It started way back in 1990 with a search engine called Archie. It was from a comic book. I don't know if anybody you're too young here, all of you, to know that. Anyway, that's a comic book, and Archie was one of the characters in it. Gopher was the second one, and it kind of took on what Archie did and launched two programs, Veronica and Jughead, another two characters from the comic book. And they basically, back then, it was very simple search. It was actually, they were basically going into FTPs and archives and actually downloading basic information of certain websites that had that information. So it wasn't very developed. It started to kind of develop further. AliWeb was, in 1993, another search engine that allowed users to submit the locations of their index files. So it became a bit more sophisticated. So you can tell the search engines, here's where this content is, download it and show it to your users. Alta Vista was probably one of the kind of first, in 1993, one of the first branded. I'm glad there's some nodding here. So I'm glad it's not just me who knows these. It was really, they did a good job with branding. I mean, it actually looked like, you know, modern day search engine. Webcrawler was actually one of the first search engines that actually, the foundations of search engines today are based on it. Funnily enough, they never really made it, but it's actually, you know, the foundations of how Webcrawler worked is what kind of developed search moving forward. Yahoo came along in 1994, and Yahoo was initially a hand-edited, curated directory. And they didn't really kind of go into search, and they were actually outsourcing their search to other people. But they believed in the idea that there are certain websites on the internet that are worth kind of collecting manually and putting them into a categorized directory. Eventually, the story, you know the story, they went into their own search. There's a lot of back history to that, but it's not the topic of today's conversation. Lycos came along in 94, kind of similar concepts. LookSmart tried to emulate Yahoo, and because of the competition, there's a lot of more inclusion of more websites to kind of show to their users. And Google didn't really show up till September 4th, 1998, and it looked like that. So it was kind of a long time ago, and they started off really small. I mean, I don't know if you remember, you know, the experience that you had on Google. I don't know, back in 1998, but it has changed a lot. The most important thing about Google is that they actually had a mission, and you're all familiar with it. Are you familiar with Google's mission to kind of organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful? They launched with that, and that was the focus of what they wanted to do. Search was not just a fringe thing that they did. That was their business, and they focused on it, and they had a vision beyond just people searching for basic information. And the most important is that they had a formula and a secret sauce, and it was Google's PageRank. And the thing that made Google different than the rest of the search engines that preceded it was primarily because of this formula and the idea that websites should not just be ranked based on the words that are being used in the content, but on the other websites linking to them. It was like a popularity contest, and it's smart that they approached it that way, because it took the power out of the website's owner's hand and put it into the public to say, you vote on which ones sites are the most important sites via links back to the site that you think is important. They've come a long way since then. This is a search I did yesterday. This is one of my favorite kind of Arabic foods. It's called mloukhiyeh. Has anybody had it? Yes, good. So basically, you search how to make it, and Google today provides a lot more information than search engines did back then. They have recipes and videos, and so it's really, really good. I mean, it's good for us as consumers of search. So what did search engines historically look for? so some of the SEO experts here, not the extreme experts, but can somebody, does anybody know what basically search engines look for when, yeah, sorry.
Keywords?
Yes, and where, sorry, yeah.
Meta tags. Historically, back in the day,
Yeah.
used to have that meta tag that they used to, I guess, add relevance to web pages.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually, that's on that point. They actually had a meta tag, just called the keyword tag, and basically, even if you did not have these keywords on your page, you could still rank for them with some search engines. Google has ignored that tag completely because people were stuffing it with words that weren't on the page. So yeah, good point. Thank you very much. In a nutshell, it's a couple of things. I didn't go into too many details, but yeah, you're right. Keywords. Sorry, what's the other thing? Does anybody know what the other thing, the major thing that people look for? I kind of said it earlier, but
Links?
Content.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, content is part of keywords, but yeah, links is the other one. Thank you. So yeah, keywords and backlinks, as they're called. This, however, had made it really, really easy back then, back in the days when I started even, to kind of game the system and basically the algorithm, Google's formulas of how they ranked sites, even Google weren't that sophisticated back then. So there were ways to game that by actually repeating keywords multiple times on the website, or going out and buying links, or securing links from sites that you own. They weren't sophisticated enough to kind of to deal with these issues, but throughout the years they have improved their game, because they did have that mission of organizing the world's information and making it accessible and useful. And people trying to game that system was against their mission. They will have none of that. By the way, today's presentation has a lot on Google for two reasons. One, Google is by far the largest engine here. Over 90% of the searches are on Google, and also that they actually have led most of the development in search. It's just a fact. And so they were on a mission to rid the world of spam, people trying to create content to attract traffic to their site and really not having much to offer. So key developments in search, and this is where some of the insights that hopefully the 9 insights that I'm going to pass on today will be kind of useful. And they're based on some of the major developments that Google has led primarily. And they were around from August 2009 to October 2015, so until recently. So trip down memory lane. Most importantly, there are some insights on each of these to kind of give you kind of a way to think moving forward with your SEO and search engine optimization. It kind of, I think to me, back in 2009, Google did an update called Caffeine. Does anybody remember this update? And basically, the idea was back then that search engines weren't really indexing the millions of pages that were coming up, on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever that was. And so they wanted to expedite this, and they figured that the faster our crawlers go around the internet and collect all of these pages, the better the experience we can provide. And so they fixed their algorithm to achieve this. It also tackled the fact that there was a lot of real-time news and information coming out, and they needed a way to capture that fairly quickly so that the experience is useful. So the aim was to provide more accurate real-time results to search engine users. Very simple, and they did a great job with that. The key takeaway for me back then, and for anybody working in SEO on websites and content, was that the more you produced, the more content you produced, the fresher your website was, and therefore you got a boost in your rankings because of the fresh content, provided the content was actually useful and not just gibberish. So that's the first takeaway. So and that still stands today. The idea that the more content you produce, the fresher your website is, the better you'll perform in search. And so it's just a global kind of takeaway. In June 2011, something called schema.org kind of framework came about, and it was to me another interesting breakthrough because it took search to a different level, and basically that didn't really start in 2011, and it actually started in 2009 with rich snippets, and Google back then led that with providing the listings with something more interesting than just a title and a small description. And if you guys remember, you remember that at some stage search became more kind of colorful, and you started to see different types of results with different kind of annotations. So the reviews was an interesting thing to add, the images and the videos that were added. And that's all because there was a layer of code that was added beyond the basic HTML that allowed the listings to look better. But schema.org in a nutshell was an initiative by Google, Bing, and Yahoo back then to create and support a common set of schemas for structured data markup. So in a nutshell, it's basically a layer that is placed in your code, some specific metadata that's placed in your code over and above the basic HTML to tell search engines that this means review, and this means I don't know, event, and therefore and that allowed the search results to look better and look like they did. It's actually not widely spread. Not many people are using that. So I think another kind of takeaway today is to really think about that schema.org, and really, if you're a webmaster or if you're a brand owner, is to go back, research it, and actually work on trying to implement that on your website to get your listings looking better in search engines if it's relevant to you. Yeah, so Search Metrics, which is a company that deals in search, said, I think that was 2 years ago, it said that only 0.3% of domains are using it, so really tiny amount. So it's a huge advantage for anybody. Even if this went up, it probably is 2 or 3% today. So actually, that's a huge advantage for anybody thinking about how do they want to take their website to the next level and actually have a competitive edge. There's a lot of tags that can be implemented, and there's relevant to different industries, so you can research them and figure out which ones are relevant to you and implement them. So yeah, implement schema.org standards to gain an edge over your competitors. That's insight number 2. By the way, this presentation will be, I think, public, so you guys can go back and if you're not taking notes. So this is what it kind of looked like. Basically, this is the code behind it in the in the pink, and this is an example of an event schema, and this is what really makes it interesting. At the bottom is that this site is displaying various events for a Rihanna concert. And because of this code, Google and other search engines are able to give more specific data because they understand the content a bit more than just HTML on the page. So this is really important. February 2011 and onwards, Google's just basically, they were relentlessly, to me, and the way I observed, is pursuing the race to AI, artificial intelligence. And a lot of the updates they did from 2011 onwards, very clearly you can see where they were heading. And it was pretty actually exciting for people who are in this industry. In 2011, Panda was one of these updates that they did. Has anybody heard of the update Panda? There's somebody back there who's really in tune with that. That's good. Sorry?
Yeah, I've heard from you.
Oh, good. Basically, and there's a whole story behind why they named their updates in certain ways. We won't go into that today, but it's interesting research. Panda, in a nutshell, initially it was dubbed a farmer update, and basically, again, Google had a mission to make the information as useful and accessible as possible, and people were abusing that system and spamming and creating content that was not original, and they were aggregating content from around the web, putting it on a page and pretending like it's original. And there was a lot of these pages because they attracted traffic, and the engines weren't sophisticated enough to deal with that. So you would see the results that were not relevant and not useful against Google's kind of mantra of what they were trying to do. So they initially dubbed it Farmer because it tackled content farms. These are what these aggregators were, farms that or sites that gathered content randomly and just tried to abuse the system. So that's where it came from. Eventually, links were not part of it. This update was primarily targeted towards content and making sure that your content is useful and it's not stolen or aggregated or so it has nothing to do with links. It's with the content on your website and the quality of it. The aim was to show high quality sites higher in their search results and demote sites that may be of lower quality. And so it wasn't just the farms, the content farms that got affected. It kind of started to tackle general quality of content for other websites. And that kind of raised the bar for content marketers or brand owners to really start to think about their content. And if it wasn't for this update, we'd still be in a place where people didn't really think of content as something that will actually benefit users. It was basically attract them in and then they'll buy from you, basically, if you were selling something. The key takeaway was just create amazing content. That's always been the case. Back to my story, back in when I worked on Dell 12 years ago, we worked with Dell on a project, SEO basically, but it was never thought of as SEO. We created content back then. We created computer buying guides and actually very useful guides to buy. How do you buy a printer, a computer? How do you and that was way back then. That is to me is the most important thing as an SEO. You have to always think about your content. It's a no-brainer really. Yeah.
What is the definition of high quality or let's say amazing?
It's a very good question. So the first definition of it is to make sure that it's unique and that it has an edge beyond anything else that's out there. There's so much content out there on the internet that or on the web. And when you're creating content, and if it's not saying anything new, not adding any more value, then you're going to struggle to rank for it. And search engines will not probably give it a lot of attention if they don't see any difference in it. I think the quality has changed over time. So uniqueness is definitely an important element of quality content. But also utilizing multimedia has become really important. People's attention spans on the web is very short, and so imagery and videos is really important. Adding more tags on your site like schema.org and microformats, which is part of it, makes that content look more quality. So you might have content about events in Dubai, or you might be running a site that rates doctors, or a financial site that rates financial products. It could look like non-unique content, but utilizing something like schema.org right away makes that content more unique, even though other people have the same content. So that's why that first point about schema.org, you can use technology to actually make your content look more quality. But bottom line, the quality of content is really not. It's the voting factor of other people saying that your content is good. So if no one is really sharing that content or linking to it, then that kind of puts you. That's what primarily search engines are looking for, is these backlinks to your site, because they're vouching for that quality and you're not vouching. But so it's a chicken egg thing. Create good content, make it look good. Have visuals in it, and then people will link to it. So, Penguin is another one. So Panda, Penguin, I think you're seeing where this is going. In April 2012, another update. And basically that was targeting the links. So we talked about two areas that Google and search engines looked at: content, keywords, and links. Panda targeted content, and Penguin targeted those links, because these were being abused also, as we discussed, or link schemes. So people, created schemes to try to outsmart search engines and to try to show their sites as more popular or authoritative than they really are. It was updated regularly and brutally. By the way, both Penguin and Panda have regular updates. So they launched the initial one, and then they're being updated on a regular basis. At least every few months you see an update of it. And it becomes much more brutal. They're getting smarter at discovering new schemes or new ways to game the system. The aim was to decrease rankings of websites that violated Google's webmaster guidelines. And these guidelines are found on Google's website. You can read through them. And basically, anything that violates them, you're putting yourself and your website at risk. The key takeaway: avoid unnatural links and focus on creating amazing content that attracts links naturally. These takeaways might seem like no-brainers, but it's important to keep remembering them. And I'm not sure how many people here are actually either the SEOs or the webmasters or actually brand owners who hired agencies. Or just as a kind of a show of hands, who's here that doesn't do SEO but has hired somebody either? And everybody here is actually an SEO? Nobody's, yeah, okay. So I'm not saying anything that you guys don't know. So I think it's very kind of clear what you need to do there. May 2012 is actually a really interesting year and month because the knowledge graph was launched, and that's really kind of started to set the stage towards artificial intelligence and where Google was heading. And basically, it was a system that understands facts about people, places, and things, and how these entities are all connected. So all of the data that Google had, they created a system. I'm not going to go into even trying to explain how it works. But simply speaking, it basically started their algorithm or their bots, their robots started to kind of make connections between places and things to understand content a bit more than just keywords on a page. The aim was to use it both behind the scenes to help Google improve the search relevancy and also to prevent knowledge graph boxes in the search results. And the key takeaway from that is just provide useful, amazing content with facts and stats. So facts and statistics became really important. So that's another element of how you can improve your content. You can write a piece about anything, but if you add to it statistics and facts, it just makes that piece of content much more useful and relevant and in line with what search engines are looking for, provided the facts are accurate. So this is kind of what it looks like. Larry Page, who knows who Larry Page is, by the way? You all do. Or who doesn't? So basically, if you search for Larry Page, Google started to show expanded boxes and more information about the relationship of Larry Page to various other people. A lot of very specific information about him. That's picked up from Wikipedia. Wikipedia basically plays a major role in search and where search gets its information because it's human edited and has a lot of useful, good information. So it's always a good kind of website to look at in terms of how they do things and how they present information, how they connect it. So anyway, that's what kind of that produced. In 2013, a really big thing happened with Google, and it was called Hummingbird. And basically, it was a complete overhaul of the Google algorithm. And now, actually, Google's algorithm, it never really had a name. Now it's actually called Hummingbird. So that's the official name of Google's algorithm, the formula that they choose that has around over 200 known factors of how they rank sites. PageRank and some of the Penguin is only parts of them. The whole algorithm is called Hummingbird. And basically, it enabled more semantic search and more effective use of knowledge graph. So semantic, basically, you can write an article about dogs. And you can stuff that article, repeat the word dogs, dog, stemming, and different types of how you mention dogs in that article. But what Google was trying to get at is that humans don't, and human language is not as simple as dog and dogs. And there are other words that also mean dogs. So man's best friend is also, as human beings, if somebody tells you, man's best friend, right, the first thing that comes to your mind is probably a dog, right? Or is it just me? But that's one example of it. But the Hummingbird basically started to approach that idea that language is more sophisticated than just keywords. And I think that that's kind of really raised the bar for content producers and website owners to really start to think, to have a shift from thinking, oh, I'm targeting this keyword and I need to repeat it a few times, versus I actually need to write something really useful and informative about this piece, about this topic. And if I don't, then search engines are now smart enough to understand that this article or this piece of content is not as authoritative. So back to your quality question, if you don't really have people who are topic experts at what they're writing, search engines are now smart enough to understand the difference between two different pieces of content. One is written by an expert because they know that man's best friend is a dog. It's very simplified, so the key takeaway is create semantically coherent content that answers users' queries rather than just trying to rank for particular keywords. Again, very simple takeaway, but I think the more specific takeaway here is that if you're producing content for your website, actually there are a lot of people out there that are experts at topics, and hire them. They're good at copywriting, but they're also experts in their fields. It's worth to get experts to write about your content rather than somebody who's less of an expert. So it started to kind of show things like, what's the tallest building in the world, and started to show kind of, more richer results based on that algorithm that happened. July 2004, Pigeon is another. Does anybody know what the Pigeon update was? I just don't want to kind of give. Okay, go ahead. If I had an iPad, I'll give it to you. They give prizes to people who answer.
I believe it was a local ranking algorithm.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. And that was really one of the kind of really major breakthroughs, especially around the mobile becoming really important, and people taking search outside of their desktop and at home. People are searching now, on the move, and so location became really important. It was launched to provide more useful, relevant, and accurate local search results, as you said. And basically, the algorithm returns better results for queries that use both conventional terms of local neighborhoods and colloquial terms. So it's actually mixing a lot of the other algorithms and trying to understand language and location. And so they started to kind of serve queries based on your location rather than just random. So putting more value of providing you more value of your when you're searching, because it's something more relevant to you because it's location based. The aim was to improve distance and location ranking parameters, so basic. And the key takeaway here is actually that you need to, if you're a local business and you're not employing kind of language on your website that tells search engines that you are local, then you're missing out. But it's not as simple as that. There are technical things that Google has enabled to allow you as a website owner to demonstrate that your website is local and not regional. I didn't put that takeaway here, but does anybody know like one technical thing that you can do that to kind of tell search engines that you're targeting one country versus another, for instance? Or go ahead. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. There's other things like hreflangs. You can actually kind of point to different pieces of content that are all duplicate, targeting multiple countries, and tell within your metadata, within your code, tell search engines, this is for Dubai, this is for Saudi Arabia, or if you're abroad, specifically. So the key takeaway here is make your if you yeah.
Does the timing of the server also give that indication to Google?
They have multiple ways, but in the past it was the server location and maybe the timing. But today they didn't want to take any risk because there are websites that are targeting local markets but are hosted in the US, for instance. So they took that away and they actually told webmasters, you tell us where your content, what it's targeting. Simple things is also your copy and making sure that you have local addresses. Small things like that, a local street address. So it's not just the city and the country. Adding something as simple as a street address makes you even more local. So it's these small kind of details that will help your content become more local enabled. 2005, we're almost getting there, by the way. And so 2015, by the way, am I talking too fast? Am I explaining things? I'm not leaving much room for kind of questions, but I guess after this session, we can have a discussion if there are any questions. Mobilegeddon was April 2015, and that was really put a fright in a lot of websites. And whoever was building mobile websites really did well since April 2015, because Google basically did not want to present a negative experience on mobile. A lot of websites back then were not mobile enabled. You'd go and browse a website, and it's the same desktop one, small letters, just not a good experience. They wanted to fix that. They wanted to make sure that their users get the best experience. And it was a very significant mobile-only ranking algorithm. Google actually, this is one of the few updates that Google actually forewarned webmasters about 2 months before it happened. So they've given webmasters enough time to say, this is coming. They provided a mobile-friendly tool. I put a link to it here. So if you all have websites and you don't know if it's friendly or not on mobile, you can test that tool and it'll tell you right away. And the aim was to give a boost to mobile-friendly pages and in Google's mobile search results. So that was just based on mobile search. And if you were mobile-friendly, you'd get a tag under your listing that says mobile-friendly. It's as simple as that. So if you search for your website and it doesn't say that, you're most likely not mobile-friendly, and it's something worth to look at. So key takeaway, provide users with a better experience on your mobile, on any device, basically. So that's a kind of more of a design thing and web development thing. But you will lose out if you're not mobile friendly. So where is search heading? It's basically heading towards artificial intelligence and basically trying to understand queries before they actually happen, trying to get into the mind of the users and understand what they're trying to accomplish from this search query. October 2015, RankBrain is Google's latest kind of update and part of their algorithm now. Google now specifically said it's a PR stunt, but they came out and said RankBrain now is the third most important signal in our algorithm. So there's 200 known factors that us SEOs know about, but there's more, obviously. But they actually came out, I think, in a Forbes article just a few months ago. It's a good read, actually, and said that RankBrain is our artificial intelligence. It's our machine learning segment of our algorithm, and it's number 3. They never really said what are number 1 and 2, but we kind of, all of us know, as we started off with this presentation, it's links and words and content. So very simple, I think. But they did at the end of the day, Google wants to lead search, and this PR stunt, I don't want to call it stunt, we're videotaped. It probably is. It's actually genius, I think, because they actually, they charted the way for the future. And actually their actions previous to that shows that they are heading this way from the smart results that you get. RankBrain in a nutshell, it's part of Google's overall search algorithm. It utilizes machine learning, artificial intelligence technology to help process search results. And Google says it's the third most important factor for ranking web pages. And the aim was to interpret the searches that people submit to find pages that might not have the exact words that were searched for. So again, it's taking small parts of the other updates that they were doing to lead to that. I'm sure it's more sophisticated than that. Maybe not, I don't know, but it's, the actions speak for themselves. When you search on Google, you are getting smarter results. It seems like a promotion for Google here, so. Key takeaway, keep your guard up, basically. I don't know what to say beyond that. It's not, nobody really knows what it does. It's really smart, kind of way of ranking sites, and know that search engines will not rest and will continue to evolve and to understand human intentions before humans do. Questions like how tall is the tallest mountain in Australia? There's so many searches that you do on Google now, and it takes a lot of these various updates that they've done that provide really, really smart location-based and really using your history and understanding. We didn't even go into the fact that Google looks at history of searches and But anyway, the results are becoming smarter. Artificial intelligence in search engines is the future, and are you ready for it? So what can you do today to future proof your business? Again, I'm just summarizing the 9 points. Produce regular fresh content updates on your website for improved ranking performance. Implement schema.org standards to gain an edge. Create amazing content that provides unique value to your audience. No brainer. Avoid unnatural link schemes. I can't stress that enough. It's so tempting to go out and buy links and go the shortcut of attracting links. It's really dangerous, and you're putting yourself at hazard. So make sure that the content is actually worthy of the links that it's getting, and that it's relevant to it. Provide useful content with facts and stats on your website. Again, don't just put a piece of content that does not add value. The more stats quoting people, the more interesting the piece of content is, the better. Think like journalists, like brand journalists. Get to the bottom of the story, or whatever you're trying to kind of communicate to your audience. Give them something more interesting to kind of think about, and to really feel that you as a brand is offering a lot of value beyond what they can find elsewhere. Create semantically coherent content that answers people's queries. Again, that comes down to hiring the right people to write the content on your site, because that will only come naturally if somebody knows what they're talking about, is writing about it. Include location signals. Again, we talked about that. It's really important. Provide users with a better user experience on mobile, on any device, not just mobile, even on desktop. Making sure the user experience is good, because if it's not, people will bounce, and Google and search engines look at bounce rates. And if people are not spending time on your site, coming in and leaving right away, we call it a pogo effect, the pogo stick. From the search results to your page and straight back to the search results. That's a clear signal that they have not found what they wanted on your site. And you can see bounce rates via your analytics if you look at data. And that's really important. So, and stay abreast of the developments in search. There's so much information out there. You can check out our blog. It's not a plugin. We love what we do, and we regularly blog about things like this. But there's so many websites out there that regularly update. Search Engine Land is an amazing resource. SEO Moz blog. There's a lot of various ones that you can check out, and they're really passionate about search, where it's going. And again, remember to think like a marketer. Does anybody know who this is? That's David Ogilvy. He's basically one of the fathers of modern advertising. So develop content marketing strategy tailored to your audience. Again, I want to go back to the fact that SEO should not be thought of as a technical matter. There's a lot of technical things you can do, but it's heading more towards smart content and popular content. And you need to therefore have a content marketing strategy tailored to your audience and not keywords. Create an editorial calendar. So again, with this whole fresh content and regularly updated content, the only way to really do it is to think like publishers and create an editorial calendar based on your audiences, segmenting the audiences, knowing what they want, what keeps them up at night, what makes them get up in the morning, really understanding and how you can help them as a brand. And if you stick with it, then you're regularly updating your content, you're producing fresh content, useful content, and that's going to help you. Integrate social media. It's arguably a ranking signal. It's not, nobody's really come out and said it is. Maybe some did, but logic says that it must be. If people are sharing content and people can look at how many shares, it must be. It gives a popularity kind of score to your content. Know your audience, your buyer personas, and answer their questions. Focus on user experience, especially mobile. It matters more now than ever. And reach out to your influencers. We didn't really go into influencers too much, but in every niche, there are people who are experts, topic experts, and they have a following. So connect with these as a brand and actually have your strategy be part of them, because they will take your content and give it a bigger voice. And therefore it gets shared more, linked to more. So you really need to have that, and it kind of tackles all that the link building part of your business. If you get with the right influencers and you get them part of your strategy, it becomes easier for them to reference your content, tell people about it. But that's it. So I hope it was useful. I'm here after the session, well now, if you have any questions. And thank you for attending. Yes. Thanks. Sorry, you had a question? Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. It's been already 2 years we met for the first time,
Yeah.
and I'm still like big fan of your presentation. You focused a lot on all the updates of Google, but it's pretty important because we are talking about like around like 600 updates a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need
Exactly. Yeah.
to remind this to the guys. I just have like, I will have one question, but before the question, I just would like to mitigate a little bit the consideration of technical SEO.
Yes.
I think we all agree that having unique content on the website is really important. And last week, Gary Ilias from Google Switzerland came up and said that today Google indexed, it's around 130 trillion URL
Wow.
on his index.
Yeah.
And out of within this 130 trillion URLs indexed, there is 60 duplicated content. 60%.
60%. Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
even lost on the
Yeah.
figures because it's huge.
Yeah.
60% of the web is duplicated. This is massive. And
It
like
is.
3 years ago, it was around 20 to 30%. So we've almost doubled the number of duplicated content in less than 5 years.
Yes,
So
yeah.
This is too much.
Yep.
And I wouldn't underestimate the technical SEO because, for example, like from my experience working on Qatar Airways website, we spent like almost a year to remove all the duplication
Yes.
instances
Yeah.
of the website just by having a wrong technical setup. I'm just giving you an example.
Yes. Yeah.
We are here. Maybe some of you, I can see like some big startuppers here that we met as well 2 years ago. But by having a website indexed twice, having HTTP and HTTPS version, having 3W, not 3W version, having multiple
Yeah.
folders. So basically for Qatar Airways, I'm telling you, they had like the country and the language, which was, for example, for France, it was France, French,
Yeah.
but as well FR.
Yeah.
So they have 2 times, and this was around like 7 way of duplicating content within their website.
Yeah.
So that means that even by having something wrong technically, you can even like go against your own website. So that's why I wouldn't underestimate it. If the
No, absolutely.
on the ideal SEO pyramid,
I
you
agree,
always
yeah.
put technical on the
Yeah.
bottom, content,
Yeah.
link, and the others like social media
Yeah.
and the future.
This is a very good point, and this is the value of hiring really very technically minded SEOs, because there are issues on websites that, if resolved, can give you the quick wins right away. You don't want. See, Google specifies quota for each website, and they crawl trillions of pages every day on the web. And if a website provides a negative experience, and if they go and start from the home page and go around your pages and start to see that there's a lot of duplication, not because you see it, it's probably pages that are created not without you knowing, because there's dynamic URLs generating of the same page. There's a technical solution for that, and if it's implemented, you're making the search engine's experience on your site and them indexing and taking the right pages and prioritizing them, putting them in their index much easier. So yeah, absolutely. I hope I didn't underestimate the value of technical. You're spot on, and thank you for your comment.
So my question is then, given that some of us are like startups and stuff, I will ask you, it's really a terrible question and really hard to answer when we are talking about like 200 criteria.
Yeah.
And you said that. But what would be your top 5 actions on a website for a startup? So I'm a startup, I just launched my new website, and I want like to be ranked and to be visible. What would be your top 5 actions?
So that's a good question. I think, yeah, it is very hard, but it's kind of, it doesn't have to be. I think design is really up there today, because it's not just about the search engines, it's about presenting your image to users who will have a first impression and they'll leave if your design is not good. Second, behind the design, that the code is smart, it's clean, and that it has all of the right markup, as we discussed, to kind of, so that you don't have an issue. So any content that is placed on your website already has an edge. And I think that's an issue with a lot of startups that probably don't think about hiring SEOs at an early stage before the site is built, because an SEO can actually give all of these insights. Number 3 is the architecture and the language, and how the site is divided to actually target all of the language in your website. So, and that has to do with a lot of the research we're talking about, researching the keywords, the audience, what they want, and then your wireframing, what the site will look like, to be based on that research and not just randomly placed there. So that kind of, if that's done right with the right navigation, split navigation, all the right elements, it gives you an edge because then it allows you to maximize on the usage of your keywords and tell search engines that how they relate to each other. 3, 4 is probably making sure that you have a content strategy. So a lot of startups probably are selling something, but they don't have the content to attract people at an earlier stage in a funnel. So the funnel is people purchasing at the bottom, and at the top, people inquiring about information. They don't even know what the solution is. So brands need to kind of build a content platform on their site, a blog, WordPress blog, or whatever kind of platform you want to use, but also to research and make sure that you're not just targeting the product searches, but also the questions around what people are searching for, so that you can expose your brand early on in the buying cycle. And number 5 is making sure that with this content strategy is actually understanding your influencers in the market and really leveraging them. And also knowing that your content should not only reside on your website. It's good to think of partners that you can actually syndicate your content to, original content to them, and really have them be part of your strategy, because it just makes you as a brand much more authoritative and much more credible. So. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Great.
One question.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much is the importance of a CMS system into the whole SEO strategy? Content management.
I think it's very important. Yeah, it's picking the right content management system will make your life much easier. A lot of the open source CMS or content management systems most of the good ones already have SEO best practices built into them. It's a great question, because startups, I'm assuming there's a lot of startups in this room. Yeah, I think it's worth to really go with one of the top content management systems. I think we're startups because we have had a few startup clients, and I think some of the concerns with startups is the fact that if they're building a website based on open source, then eventually when they exit through investors coming in and maybe people analyzing what their framework is built on, and they see that it's not original. Maybe there's some concerns with that. Maybe not. But yeah, CMS, picking the right one is important. It's worth doing your homework there. And all of them have plugins. So the schema.org, most of them, Joomla, Drupal, WordPress, it's as simple as going, purchasing, or even most of them are free plugins that you can just download, add, and just activate. Right away, your site will become schema.org compliant, or microformat compliant, whatever the term is.
Which one do you suggest for startup?
I personally think that WordPress is brilliant for blogging, but it's also built, our website's built on WordPress, but the more kind of robust is either Joomla or Drupal. I would go with Drupal. Should I not? I probably shouldn't be kind of promoting specific products. No connection with any of the products I mentioned today, but yeah.
In terms of mobile websites, the mobile get-on or whatever you were talking about, that happened in April. It's been about 6 months since then.
Yeah.
What is your understanding about how much Google is now demoting a site if it's not mobile responsive?
Very good question.
I'll tell you my own experience.
Yeah.
We have a website. Unfortunately, it's not responsive yet.
Yeah.
We're in the process of making it.
Okay.
We continue to get about 80% of our traffic through Google search.
Okay.
And
You didn't see a drop in mobile.
70% of our traffic is mobile, but 80% of the search brings traffic to us.
Yeah.
And it's Google which is primarily bringing people to us. So I have not noticed
Any change? Yeah.
Maybe there's been a change in the growth that would have taken place.
Yeah.
We continue to see growth compared to last year.
Yeah.
Or maybe the speed of that growth.
Maybe, yeah. And
what's your?
it's a very good question, because a lot of people experience the same thing. It was like a big, news, mobile get-in, and they termed it like the end of the world. But actually, a lot of webmasters subsequently said as you said, we didn't really see anything. It wasn't as major. But I think it has to do with what niche you're in and how many of your competitors are also mobile friendly. So it's worth kind of checking who else ranks for your search phrases and seeing if they are if they are and you're not, then you don't have to, it's less of an issue. But if they are not mobile friendly, then eventually the site that does kind of turn and fixes their mobile presence, then they'll have an edge. So it's maybe not a one shoe fits all. Maybe it's the competitive of the nature of the industry you're in, possibly. But yeah, very good question. But it's good, generally speaking, regardless of the effect. It's always good to present a good user experience, so that you always maintain an edge. Yeah.
We're in the process of making it, but it's just that we have different priorities. As a startup,
Yes.
we've got to allocate resources based on what you want to do
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Mobile was a major one for us,
Yeah.
but we were making an app, so the app was high priority.
Yeah.
Now the app is done. Now we're focusing back on the website to make it mobile responsive.
Excellent. Well, good luck with. You can have the same language, and it's Canadian English and American English. So you can have duplicate content, but you can actually utilize technically to tell search engines that this language is for this. This site is for this language in this country. So you can go granular with telling search engines which piece of your content is targeting which area via paid search, and you can target. But within SEO, can you?
No, not really. I've been like, that's one of my main challenge, to be honest with you. Now with Qatar Airways, you imagine that with all this, we have like managing around 13 languages, around 90 countries. So I need to imagine the challenge to be ranked on flights to Dubai or flights to Doha within all these languages, within all these countries.
Yeah.
So this was an update last year from Google that they allowed to have this href sitemap language. So basically within this href sitemap, you can put it as well on HTML of the website. You can specify the language and the country. Easy on the paper when Google share the information. A little bit more complicated when you have to develop it on 10,000 pages. I'm totally honest with you. After 5 o'clock, I have a meeting call with Aleida Solis. So basically, you type international SEO on Google, you will see the 10 results are from her. So to tell you, the reason why I'm having all this discussion with her is because SEO, if we have like to put one sentence on this presentation, must be done by specialists.
Yeah.
Please never underestimate. If it's your business, I'm not saying expert. I'm
No.
not an expert. I'm just only a passionate. That's my work. I've been doing it like for the last 6 years. But this must be done by specialists. The way it's changing every time, every single day, with 600 changes a year, this you must be inside, in depth of every single thing. And they have like Nike and Adidas have implemented these two solutions in two different ways, and they were all wrong. So what do you want me to say to Qatar when he's Qatar Airways, when he's sending me this article and say, where are you on this compared to that? We have to try, and we have to be honest. And I have to be honest with you guys, SEO, it's not an exact science. It's just a matter of experience, trying, testing, see the result, and allocating and changing. But it's not an exact science. The one who knows is the one who tried and did the result and get the result and see what's wrong and what's working well. So this we need to ask this girl basically. She's on the top 5 Forbes digital marketing in the world. But without with working with Qatar Airways, I can't take any risk at my level and not having the best specialist on that. So I need to ask as well other people.
But let's
And
say
I'm not shy.
I'm targeting UAE market.
You can.
And I have the IP addresses set
Yeah.
allocated to do and Etisalat, the entire set coming from a IP assigning authority. Can't I put it into my HTML code so that
No, not as he said. For you can geolocalize this for in terms of kilometer for this paid search activity. So that's why it's really important as well to work SEO and PPC.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to work SEO alone. SEO doesn't work alone. Now it works with PPC and UX, and he said that.
Yeah.
He started to talk about design. You can't do it for the SEO.
what is that? PPC, sorry.
It's the paid search.
Oh, paid search. So the sponsored list results that show up in the top or the right-hand side of the results. But yeah, making sure you have a strategy that works with both. Then you're targeting based on IP if you can, and you have your SEO results providing more added value in different ways. But it's heading this way. I mean, all of the different tags that are happening, the developments in search, it makes it smart that they actually start to implement more granular location-based signals. And so, yeah.
What's the importance of the URL or the name of the site? For example, I registered domain,
Yeah.
the name of my company.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to help.
With the search. So that's a very good question. A long time ago, if you had the right generic keyword, so I don't know,
Buy a car.
yeah, buyacar.com, then you would rank for buy a car. Google has removed the importance of the domain. Actually, if you have an exact match keyword, you're going to get hurt. We've experimented with that with some of the websites that we experiment with, and Google will just basically think you're off the bat, you're trying to game their system. So I hope I answered the question. So you can have a generic name. Think about branding. Don't think about the keywords in the URL. Generally speaking, you have to have a URL that's friendly, but Google in the past looked at the URLs, what you're using in the URLs much closely. Today, it's still important that the URL structure should explain what the path is and what the different folders are. But don't over-obsess with it, I would say. Just make sure that they are clean URLs and that the content on those URLs makes sense.
If I have one tip for URLs, and I faced this challenge with one of the clients, I can tell you it was Al-Futtaim Automotive website. I would say we are here in UAE, and when we are talking about like Saudi, we need to speak their language. And we need to speak
So Arabic URLs,
so
yeah.
in Arabic. It's
Yeah.
so rare now here to find website with proper Arabic URLs. It's almost impossible. One of the good examples is Etihad. It's not my client. So I'm frank with that. It's Etihad, and we've done the same for Al-Futtaim Automotive. So it's really important as well to have the right language, the same language, not having your URL in English and after your content is Arabic. Doesn't help for the rankings.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think I'm probably going to ask the same question. I literally just walked in from a
Oh.
call, so I hope I'm not going to make you repeat yourself.
No. It's,
If you're putting together a website where it's based in the UAE with
Yeah.
a focus on the MENA region,
yeah.
but the content is in English and Arabic,
Yeah.
are you focusing on English or are you?
The UAE English is quite, I would say it's around 50-50 in the UAE. No, sorry, it's even more closer to more English searches in the UAE specifically, or I guess it depends on what industry you're in.
And if you,
But yeah.
So presumably, if you're looking at the keywords and search sensitivities to keywords, you can't just run an Arabic translation of the English content because
No.
the words are going to. So you need to rewrite the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to. It's we have a couple of clients in Saudi in the banking sector, and that's really important to not create an English website and translate it. If you're targeting Saudi, the copywriting has to start with a Saudi national who is an expert, expert in their field, who writes the copy, and then English should be the translated, or not translated, transliterated. So you actually need to have people who are not just going to Google Translate, taking and copying, pasting. It really needs to make sense in English and Arabic. And it goes back to the quality of the content in that question. Content that's translated, search engines, you go into Google and today they're fixing your spelling, and they have translation machines that can very quickly kind of tell you what that means. So they're very good at translation and they're very good at spotting it. So again, it's one of the quality signals. If your content looks translated and doesn't look like it's targeting and using the language of that region or the country, then you're going to get hurt, definitely.
But let's say we buy a localized domain .ae or .sa or something, will it help to target the local?
Yeah, I think you can do it with a .com. I think localized domains provide a trust factor. If somebody looks at the .co.uk in the UK or .com.sa, or it gives a comfort factor that this is a local brand and that they're here in town. But
Will it help with the SEO?
it's a good question. I think it could be one of the factors, but Google has provided webmasters with so many ways to actually tell them that this is local, regardless of what extension it is. I am a fan of top-level TLDs of countries, so not going with the .com. But each scenario has its own. You can go with a subfolder, subdomain, or a top-level domain, and they'll all. If you hire the right SEO, they will get you the results based on various things you can do with them. But I think I don't know if you agree. I think a top-level kind of localized domain is useful.
It depends on your activity and what you are aiming to do, basically. If you are aiming like to target a country, obviously the solution is the CCTLD, so country code top-level domain, so to select basically .a if you are targeting a country. If you are international and you are targeting at the language level, so then you can select the .com for your brand, and after you target country and language at a subfolder. You can do it as well as subdomain. So for example, I don't know, for example, if it's Carpool Arabia, you can do englishen.carpoolarabia.com and you will target the language at subfolder. It's less common, it's applicable, less common.
And it's also, you have to speak to your IT because there's implications of management of the content, and managing everything under one kind of subdomain is easier, or one domain. So it's a lot of things coming to, but it's spot on. It's basically what works for you. If it's purely a local country, if it's a global brand, it's worth to go on the .com because you'll expand. Plus, one thing to keep in mind is those links that get to your site. Google looks at a subdomain as a separate site. So a subdomain dot something is a completely separate site. Then, so the links you get to that are, they won't support your full domain, or they might have a small kind of effect on it. But you have to think about that. You have to think about the amount of content you put on subdomains, because again, subdomains are one of the things that people started to abuse, creating multiple subdomains to kind of game the system to own a whole page of Google based on multiple subdomains that don't really add value. So I'm a fan. If you're a local targeting Saudi, go with Saudi. But if you're global or regional, go with a .com and then have a strategy technically to target the various folders. Subfolders I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. But
okay, right. So with that, can we close the session and then you can take this up on one-to-one basis, or do you want to? Okay, last question maybe.
So the various versions of Google geographically.
yeah.
Do the algorithms, are they like more stringent in some areas than they are in others?
So the various countries.
Yeah, Google.de, Google.ae, Google.co.uk.
Yeah, I think it's we've noticed from our work that SEO in this region, I don't want to say it's easier, but there's less competition. So anything you're doing here, especially around Arabic, you're getting an advantage right away. So any brand who's launching here as a startup, focus on Arabic content, because right away you have an edge to kind of quickly own a niche in your field, because it's still the content in the region. The figures are really minute of people creating content compared to English, for instance. So Arabic, even if your target audience does not speak, if they don't speak Arabic, you shouldn't be targeting Arabic. But it's a quick win to attract traffic, and so it's the answer is I guess it's easier here in this region currently, but it's going to get difficult because SEO is becoming much more, on top of mind for a lot of people. Yeah.
I'm just going to ask
Yeah.
you just quickly, what tool do you recommend to check the results? Let's say you do some optimization. What do you personally use to check if the ranking has changed?
We have our own kind of tool that we've created. So it kind of pulls in data from various areas. So it pulls rankings in from the Google API. It gets link building efforts from Ahrefs, Moz, Open Site Explorer, and Majestic.com. These are the three best tools for kind of measuring link building activity and your authority, I think. Technically, we have a crawler that basically goes around the website and looks at all the issues and comes back with a PDF report that goes to our clients to explain to them what the issues are. So, in a specific area, are you looking at ranking, for instance?
Yeah, let's say you've done some optimization and you want to check, there's different checkers on the ranking. But I'm wondering if there's a tool you can recommend.
Ranking checker. But
Personally, I use what?
WooRank.
WooRank.
Give you all the optimization, like if you have to resize your images, if you have to work on your content and everything.
But it will not give you keyword rankings.
No.
No.
So Moz will do. But for the basics, WooRank.
WOO rank.
R-A-N-K.
The one that we use internally, but it depends as well on your objective and how much money this is really costly. For example, for Qatar, we track around like 30,000 keywords all around all these countries, but we have to trip to, fly to, travel to, book a flight to. When you see all these to around like 150 destinations, you have to. So we use advanced web ranking.
oh yes, yeah, that's a good one actually. Yeah, we've used that
But
before.
we spend like $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
So just to let you know.
Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate your time. So
Yeah, thank you so
thanks.
much.
Thank you.